candidates. In fact, they're not even in the running. They're not competitors. The examples that are in the running are, for example, cited in the current history issue to which I referred, which does discuss 1985 and gives two examples of the evil scourge of terrorism, namely the hijacking of TWA 897, killing one American Navy diver, and the hijacking of the Achille Lauro, the boat which led to the killing of Leon Klinghoffer, a crippled American, both surely terrorist atrocities. Those are the two examples that are in the running that are memorable, that count for international terrorism. Well, the hijackers of the TWA plane claimed, correctly in fact, that Israel was regularly hijacking ships in international waters in transit between Lebanon and Cyprus, killing people, kidnapping others, taking them to Israel either for interrogation or simply as hostages, keeping them in jail for years. In fact, some people are still in jail without charges, many years. But that's all correct. Their charges are correct. But that doesn't justify the hijacking on the assumption, which I accept at least, that violence is not legitimate in retaliation against even worse atrocities or as preemption against future atrocities. Violence is not legitimate in such cases, so we can dismiss those claims, though they're in fact correct. And incidentally, the U.S.-Israeli hijackings, and remember, if Israel does it, we're doing it, those hijackings are also out of the historical record. I mean, occasionally you'll find a reference to them in the bottom column on something or other, but they're not part of the history of terrorism. The hijackers of the Achille Lauro claimed that this was retaliation for the bombing of Tunis a couple days earlier. Well, we dismiss that with contempt on the same principle, namely violence is not justified in retaliation or preemption. And assuming that we can rise to the level of, to the minimal moral level that I mentioned earlier, if we're not confirmed hypocrites, in other words, then some consequences follow about other acts of retaliation and preemption, but that's too obvious to talk about, so I'll just leave it to you to think about. Well, that's 1985, the peak year of international terrorism in the Middle East. It's a research project. You might see if I left out anything that is a competitor for the prize. I'm not aware of it. And none are mentioned in the literature on terrorism. Well, and notice that, as I said at the beginning, you don't really have to work very hard to see these things. You have to work very hard not to see them. It takes a really good education to miss this. Think about it and see.